starting at the early degrees of Virgo. That is not an eclipse. But then moving on into September the 7th, we get a full lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces with the sun in Virgo. And then we get, on September the 21st, we get a new moon in the sign of Virgo as an eclipse, partial solar eclipse, at the 29th degree of Virgo. So this is the beginning and the end of a Virgo cycle with eclipses shooting at us the whole time. So get light on your feet, because we're going to be dodging the divine intervention, the hold on to your butts kind of energy that eclipse seasons tend to bring. August the 22nd, we have our new moon starting us off, and this is kind of our, I like to think of this is our prep time. This is time to get ready. This is time to get clear on what it is that we want to see in our lives, to understand where this Virgo part of the zodiac is affecting our lives. It's great to really get a hold of it so that you understand what house it's happening in your chart. I'd recommend you going on to AstroSeek and putting in your little birthday and figuring that out. It will tell you. You can look at it, and if you can't figure it out, you can message me, and I'll help you figure it out here on YouTube, or you can go onto my socials. If you go into my bio and find my socials and message me on any of those platforms, I'll help you out. So August the 22nd, that is our new moon energy coming in, and new moons are about new beginnings, and we are really looking down the barrel of a brand new beginning with this eclipse season kicking off. Eclipses are very much about divine intervention. They are big events that can intersect our lives depending on the transits that are happening in our chart. They can be quite titanic movements in the course of our lives. They can change our patterns that we've been holding on to very often, because they are what an eclipse is, and is an intersection of the sun or the moon into one of the nodes, the north or the south node in the chart. And the south node and the north node, those are the planes of intersection of the solar ecliptic, the path that it makes visibly from the Earth as it rotates, and then the ecliptic of the moon as it orbits the Earth. Those two have an intersection, and we call those the north and south node. And when we have the sun and the moon intersect either in opposition or in conjunction, there at those nodes we have an eclipse. So our north and south node, the south node is currently in the sign of Virgo, and the north node is currently in the sign of Pisces. And we kind of tend to take that in the Western modern astrological tradition as sort of a psychological direction for ourselves. The movement that we want to be going in is away from our south node and towards the north node. We tend to think of it that way in these modern terms, although in the ancient Hellenistic astrology and in Vedic astrology, they think of the nodes as the dragon, and we have the south node as the tail of the dragon and the north node as the head of the dragon, and the dragon is all-consuming. It can't consume enough. It wants to consume. And the south, and so it wants more and more of whatever energy is in front of it. And the south node is sort of where that energy dissipates. It's digested. It's what but in both senses, it's what we are familiar with. The south node is what we are familiar with. It's what is digestible, what has already come to us, what we are already familiar with, we know how to utilize, and therefore don't need as much, right? And the north node is our direction, and therefore we want more of it. We want more of it coming into our lives. And so at the moment we sort of feel we are leaving the discernment, the cold, rational, logical attitude of Virgo, and looking for more of that integrative, intuitive, oceanic energy of Pisces. And so as this new moon enters in, we have the sun here and the moon intersecting at 0 degrees of Virgo. And we won't get to the nodes until the next lunation cycle. as we prepare for these eclipses coming into our lives and not really knowing exactly what they may manifest for us, because it's sort of like saying prepare for an eclipse is sort of like saying prepare for expect the unexpected. We don't really know what to expect exactly, but we know that we can prepare for the circumstance. We can prepare for the surprise of it. We can prepare for divine intervention. We can be ready for either the alteration of patterns or the loss of something that might occur or the sudden manifestation of something that might come into our lives. We can prepare in some emotional sense for that to occur, but we can't necessarily prepare for any particular circumstance or other. So this new moon is sort of about, this new moon on August 22nd is our time to prepare for that moment, for the moments of the eclipse that are about to transpire. So we are getting cleansed. We are doing our Virgo things. We are cleansing. We are banishing energy from our space. We are cleaning. We are maintaining. We are getting into order. We are putting our affairs into correct and right order. We are getting ourselves right with ourselves and with divine spirit, so that when it enters our lives, we are ready for it. We're creating the temple through which the divine may enter. So here we're meditating upon, let's meditate on this August 22nd new moon as a time to get clear in our heads about what it is that we want to see in our lives, how the direction we want our lives to take, so that when things start coming at us, we know what direction to dodge in, where to go, whether to zig or to zag. Which one do we choose? What's interesting about this new moon in terms of the zodiac here is that, we're talking about the sun leaving the sign of Leo and entering into that early degree of Virgo. And so this new moon really happens very quickly after the sun leaves Leo. I can't talk today. Immediately, like about 8 hours after the sun enters the sign of Virgo, leaving Leo, we get the moon entering and coming into that exact conjunction with the sun. So there is a progression from Leo into Virgo that is innate in the character of this new moon. And so that Leo energy, that grand, sovereign, fire energy, that look at me, grand, expressive, Leo in your facedness, is going to quiet down, cool down, as it moves into the mutable earth of Virgo. It goes into the earth sign. It's like we're putting out the fire. We're putting out the torch a little bit. We're not burning quite as brightly. We're getting a little more serious about what needs to be done moving forward. Leo is more about an expression of the self. It's about sovereignty of the self and letting it be known that the self is sovereign. There's an egoic aspect to it. It's a very masculine, egoic energy. And Virgo is a feminine sign. So the sun enters that Virgo energy and cools down, chills out just a little bit. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is still sitting over there in Leo, and it is still kind of shouting in a certain sense in that Leo energy. But so there's still a little bit of that in there, just a little tiny bit, but we're moving away from that energy into the more humble essence that is Virgo. Humble really is the nature of what's happening in this first full moon in August. We have this sextile that is happening between Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degrees of Aquarius, and Neptune and Saturn here at the early 0 and 1 degrees of Aries. And so they're in a sextile position, which is an agreement. Okay, they're in sort of an energetic harmonization that's occurring between them. And they're making this yod position here, what's called the finger of God, the yod, which is pointing here at the sun. It's pointing at the new moon. And the yod kind of calls for the planetary forces at the end of the Yod, at the pointy end, to kind of surrender into that energy. And what's interesting here is that this sextile this is the longest surviving aspect in the zodiac right now. It's been lasting for almost a full century. It's about 80 years in existence. The sextile between Pluto and Neptune. They have been in this sextile aspect, since about 1942. They move at such a slow rate and in such synchronicity with each other that they have maintained this sextile for that long. And they've been, even though they've been retrograding back and forth, it's been maintained most of this time. So it's a kind of a generational aspect that's happening here that you can trace back to the 1940s. And so Pluto, the character of this sextile is quite transformative, and we have seen this happening over the last century, because Pluto has this, of course, transformative energy. It is the death and rebirth of things. And then Neptune is our ideals. It is our dream image of reality. It is what we wish things were. It is that dreamy essence. It is also can be our delusions, because in the wanting of things to be a certain way, sometimes we fall prey to our own delusions. So Pluto, holding this aspect with Neptune since the 40s, has been this transformation of our ideals as it moves from Libra, into Scorpio, into Sagittarius, into Capricorn, now into the early sign of Aquarius, over that long 80-year period. About the same amount of time that it has taken Uranus to go around the entire cycle. So that is a huge, huge energy. It's so huge that it's almost want to ignore it. And there's like a background, it's huge, but it's like the background radiation of the cosmos, huge. Like, it's such a titanic amount of energy that we can almost ignore it, because it's everywhere all at once. But it's there, nevertheless. And this transformative energy that is transforming our ideals, it's worth talking about here, because as the sun is moving into that position for the new moon in the 0 degrees of Virgo, it is making that direct aspect of the Yod with that sextile with Pluto and Neptune. And so we get this moment where the sun is stepping into this position where it kind of has to humble itself from Leo into Virgo and into this Yod. And so you can kind of imagine this sextile as like two people talking. Here's Pluto and here's Neptune. They're talking. They're having this conversation about ideals and rebirth and how to transform the ideals of humanity. And then over here in this weird space is the sun and the moon. Is the sun, okay? So imagine there's two people are having a conversation. This is the energy of a Yod, okay? These two people are having this conversation. And this other person is standing kind of awkwardly away from them, but also looking at them in sort of a way. So that you're having this conversation with your friend over here, and there's this person standing in the background, and you're trying to focus, but this person is over there, and it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit awkward, and that person can't really enter into the conversation because of the position that they're standing at, right? So they have to kind of be kind of quiet and observant and looking at what's happening between those two things. So that's what the energy of the sun is doing. But now the sun is also coming into conversation with the moon as the moon enters into that degree, sharing that 0 degree aspect of Virgo with the sun. So it's like, imagine now standing back from all of that, and you see Pluto and Neptune having this conversation, and the sun and the moon in the background are having, they're making out. So there's a lot going on. This is sort of bizarre energy that is happening all at once. And it's an energy that doesn't quite jive with one another. So that's why one of these energies has to surrender. And in the energy of the Yod, it's the sun and the moon that have to humble themselves. They have to become quiet. Allow that energy to progress. That energy, that transformative energy of our ideals, now is humbling the sun. This new moon energy can be a little bit of a challenge for us because it has a trine happening. It's a very rough trine happening with Chiron at 26 degrees of Aries. But you may be feeling a little bit of that Chiron energy, that wounded pain as you try to begin as you focus on this new beginning in the Virgo part of your life. There's a little bit of pain. It's like we're leaving something behind, or we're having to experience this pain. We're beginning again because of this pain, in a certain sense that we have stepped away from just a little bit. It's a little bit also in the background noise of our mind, but it's like a kind of a friction that is causing us to move forward. Whatever that pain is, whatever that Chiron wound inside of us, that very fundamental formative pain that we feel inside of ourselves, that is the nucleus of our personality, in a sense, of nucleus of who we are, because we all have this formative trauma at the center of our psyche that sort of informs how we see the world, and that is the nature of that Chiron energy, and it is informing us as we try to move away from that a little bit of how to stage this new beginning here on August 22nd, the new moon. So let's move away from this. I've talked about this for 20 minutes. Let's go on to the September events. So during this time, before this full moon happens, Uranus has gone into retrograde and starting to move back towards Taurus. So this is a period where that Uranian energy of this forceful, rebellious liberation is starting to move backwards. It's walking backwards. It's kind of like reviewing where it's been. It's reviewing the territory of where it's been and what it's done. It's not necessarily making progress. It's sort of reviewing and revising the process. Some things may need to be taken away in the Uranus progress that has happened over Gemini, those early decans of Gemini, whatever that is for you exactly. So that is the stage that we set here for the full moon that is happening in Pisces. And Pisces is that big emotional, oceanic energy. It is intuitive. It is a lot of feeling. It is a lot of integration. You know, Virgo and Pisces form a polarity. All of these signs on the opposites of the zodiac form polarities that are always worth examining, and whenever a full moon comes around, it really highlights that polarity. And the polarity here is that Virgo is taking a totality, a whole, an oceanic whole, and it is pulling out of that whole individual pieces. It's making a discernment. It is focusing down on the smaller parts of the whole and making sure that it is operating. Pisces does the very opposite thing. It takes the very small parts and reintegrates them into the whole. It takes the little pieces and puts them into their place in the grand scheme of things. So it's kind of, they're doing reverse actions. And so they inform each other in a certain sense. Those oppositions work that polarity between the two actions. And we get a kind of movement between wholeness and individuality, or discernment and discernment back into integration. And so the full moon expressing itself in Pisces is really about this culmination and integrating our emotional state, letting it be full and visible. And now at this point, we're getting that eclipse. So this is a massive, larger than life sort of full moon that also goes dark. You know, we get the literal eclipse of the Earth shadow moving over the moon, and it goes dark, but we have this emotional state that is expressing broadly. And then we have perhaps the divine intervention coming in as we express our emotional state, as we express all of these wounded feelings that we've had with that chironic energy from the new moon previously. We are expressing our pain, our shame. We're letting it come out of the shadow of the unconscious so that it is seen and known. And we are releasing. This is the release into the ocean. We are screaming into the ocean. We're screaming because Mercury is over here. It's within the beams of the sun in a certain sense. So it's so close to the sun in the traditional sense that they consider that in combustion. Sorry, it's in combustion. And so Mercury is kind of involved. It's kind of like saying that it's making a conjunction with the sun, even though it's at 9 degrees and the sun is at 15. So we're saying in a certain sense that the Mercury is also there present in a certain sense. It's like screaming through its megaphone of the sun. It's in combustion and it is consumed into the flames of the sun and also utilizing its energy to express this fullness. So we are wanting, there's this feeling that we want to kind of scream into this full moon, this huge release. And this is the middle of the journey that we're taking from that early decan of the new moon in Virgo, which was the beginning, that raw Virgo energy, into now this middle energy of Virgo. That early decan, those early degrees of Virgo have the bound lord of Mercury and the decan ruler of the sun. So there's a little bit of that Leo energy coming with it, and a little bit more of expression, a little bit quickness, trying to get things sorted out. It's like, oh, we're in a new environment. Let's get everything figured out. Let's express ourselves and use our egoic energy to get things organized. But as we move into the middle decan and the middle degrees of Virgo, this becomes more of a Venusian energy, frankly. There's more of a Venus influence here. And Venus is also still back in Leo. So there's still a little bit of a Leo expressing out of the middle of this Virgo energy. But there's more of a sense of harmony and balance, or at least a sense of beauty in our release, a sense of trying to find that equilibrium in our release, and trying to find in this release the end of that cycle of feeling, whatever that feeling happens to be for us, whatever it is in your Pisces energy, whatever that Pisces happens to fall in your chart. For me, that is in the 6th house of health, body, work, other, servitude, that sort of thing. So it's a release for me, perhaps, in this service that I am now providing, which is to illuminate the nature of astrology and the human soul through this medium of YouTube or whatever the hell I'm doing right now. So that is that feeling that we get in the middle of this eclipse energy. So we have to remember that even though this is a full moon, it is that much larger than life eclipse energy that is happening. And we can expect that whatever we're expressing here is probably going to have some resonance for several months after this. We're going to feel it continuing. Whatever we are letting go of during this new moon is going to really be let go of in a big way. We're going to feel that rippling through the months ahead. And as we move into this new moon that's going to happen on September the 21st, let's go ahead and look at that. This new moon energy that is now happening at the very end of Virgo in the 28th degree, 28, 29, 27, it's in that area. This is also a partial solar eclipse, so this will also be resonating from the months ahead. So this is where we are really planting the seed of what we want to see happen into the winter months. Really, we're preparing for winter. We're little ants that are preparing for winter right now. As this new moon happens, Venus has transgressed into Virgo and come in with us. It's jumped into the Virgo pool. It's left Leo, and we're still feeling that energy. So now it's adding to that energy of Virgo, and there's this great big Venus energy that is helping us to find that that equilibrium and harmony, and allow it to find that resonance in the new moon energy. It's sort of like that point of attraction that allows us to bring in our manifestations is very powerful and present at this moment in this state of the eclipse. I don't always advise manifesting in eclipses because eclipses are such big energy, but if we're already in a state of resonance, if we're already living the wish fulfilled, we're already in that state, it's already coming forwards. It didn't really matter necessarily how much of that manifesting energy is already in the cosmos from that eclipse already happening. It's already a lot. It's a big background radiation energy of eclipse energy happening all out there. But if we're embodied in that wish fulfilled, if we're already there, which we have been attempting to do, we're trying to get into that place through the new moon happening in August 22nd, and then the full moon eclipse happening on September the 7th. It's about getting clarity. It's releasing our pain, identifying it, releasing it, getting prepared so that this new moon energy with the eclipse happening, we're already in that embodiment of the manifestation that we want to see so that it carries forward into the winter. And these final boundaries, these final bound lords, we have some malefics there. It's kind of a harder feeling in those later degrees of Virgo. Virgo gets a little severe towards the end as it gets into the Mars and Saturnian bound lords at the end. So this area is kind of ruled by Saturn and Mercury. So there's a bit of severity to it that you might be feeling, a bit of constriction, a bit of that we have to kind of give something up in order to produce what we want to see in our lives. It's sort of a very Virgoan notion that, time is a little bit limited. We have to focus on what needs to be done. We have to maintain things, but we can't do all of it. So what do we choose? It's a discernment of things. So there's a Saturnian sense of discernment that has to occur at this point. What is it? You can't have all the donuts. You can't have 12 donuts. You can't have the whole dozen. Which donut do you want? Do you want the pink one? Do you want the one with sprinkles? Do you want the eclair with the creamy feeling? Or do you want to skip the donuts altogether? And because you're on a diet, because you're Virgo, and your body is a temple. But whatever the case is, we're choosing. We're choosing our manifestation at the exclusion of other things, and it can be painful to do so because we have to choose. We have to choose. And then as we come into this, Saturn has also been retrograding and falling back into the sign of Pisces, and Neptune is moving back towards Pisces as well. It's in that 0 degree. And so as we get in close to that 0 degree of Libra, and we're at the 28th degree of Virgo, we have this direct opposition with Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn, this conjunction with Saturn and Neptune, which we've talked about ad nauseum, and every astrologer is talking about ad nauseum because it is the big deal that is happening in the world. It is the revision, the reinvention of the self. We are reinventing ourselves. We are restructuring. We are recreating the image of the self and recreating the material reality of the self, which Saturn represents. Neptune represents the dream image of reality. So those two things are revising each other in a certain sense. And since Aries is that cardinal axis of the world, it's as though it's the beginning of a new cycle. So it's as though the entire world is revising itself in a certain sense. It's revising its individuality. It's revising who it is as we revise who we are. So in this revision process, now we're moving backwards in the retrograde process. We're revising, going back, reviewing who we became, what we did, was it working? We're going back into Pisces in order to integrate the lessons that we learned through the boldness the forward momentum that we gain just a little bit of Aries in our new progression of the self. We're going back and revising. We're looking at who we were, seeing what worked, integrating those lessons through this Pisces instinct. Now we're operating through the sense of instinct, through feeling, through a more feminine essence of Pisces, to bring those lessons into totality, individual lessons into totality, right? And then we're going to move forward again. But so the new moon is here in opposition to that. So it's as though we're looking at those two things together, right? And seeing where they oppose one another, where can they find agreement finally, and what is it about the new self that we are learning as we descend into Pisces, as we go back down into the oceanic depths of that Piscean energy. As we go back down in there, what are the lessons that we have integrated from our movement through Aries about who the new person that we want to become? Identify those things, and now we want to have this new moon energy bring us more completely into that, clear the space, and allow those manifestations to enter into that space, because we have begun to integrate those lessons. We've begun to integrate them into ourselves, because our manifestations are dependent on who we are, not what we want, not what we project out into the world, but who we are, and how in our being, in our individuality, we project it forward and see the world. So it starts at the narrative of ourselves. Pisces is that grand mythical narrative. So we're revising that story and getting clear on who this new person is in this new world, this brand new world that we're entering into. As Pluto and Neptune continue this conversation of revising, of creating a new ideal, a new spiritual essence for mankind, as we discover the new worlds of spirituality, new worlds of the interior, new worlds of the exterior. All of this is happening as that background radiation. We're revising that. Uranus is revising itself, revising the sense of liberation that we have to take as everything prepares to move forward again. Pluto is going to begin going direct again very soon, I believe. Sometime in October. I wrote it down, but then October 13th. It's going to start moving forward again. It's going to go direct, so Pluto is going to start moving forward through Aquarius, and we're going to start feeling more of that death and rebirth energy going through society again. It's going to be quite titanic. And then, next spring, next summer, we'll have Saturn and Neptune moving forward, and Uranus moving forward again eventually. This is the time where we get clear on who we are, what we want to see, releasing what we don't want to have anymore, and then putting it forward as ourselves, becoming the person that we want to be through this full moon energy, and preparing to have this eclipse energy resonate into next year when everything starts to move forward again. That's the task for you ahead, and myself as we move into this eclipse energy. Let me know where all of that falls. Where is Virgo in your chart? Where is Pisces in your chart? And if you don't know, let me know and I can help you out. Just message me. Put in the comments below, or message me here, or go ahead and look in my bio and find me on Instagram, or whatever you want to do. I don't care. You can do it in any number of ways. The world is yours. There are so many choices in this Piscean energy that we're moving into. The world is your oyster. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for joining.